Whistler Bay is a quiet place on the surface. The fog rolls in like clockwork, the sea hums old secrets, and KFOG 97.1 FM keeps the night company for anyone still awake to hear it. I'm Dan Carter, and this is the Midnight Signal. Local news, late night calls, and whatever strange things the signal carries with it. So grab a cup of something warm, stay tuned, and if the static starts to talk back, you're not alone. Whistler Bay always sounded better at night. The fog crept in like it had secrets to keep, smothering the narrow streets and swallowing the edges of the sea. To most, it was unsettling, but to Dan Carter, it was perfect. Inside the warm, flickering lights of the radio studio, he leaned into his mic with practiced ease, fingers wrapped around a chipped coffee mug. "Good evening, wanderers and wakeful ones," he said softly. "You're tuned in to the Midnight Signal. I'm your coastal companion for the sleepless hour. I'm Dan, and I'll be here till the tide rolls out, or the static takes over, whichever comes first." A green light on the soundboard flickered gently. Line 1. Marlene from Silver Bluff probably called every Thursday to request something mellow for her cat. Dan smiled to himself. The weirdos of Whistler Bay were his people. "We've got fog rolling in at creepily consistent, and a slight chance of missing time if you're out past curfew," he continued. "Let's start the night off with a track from Marlene. Apparently, her cats have been staring at the radio again. And hey, cats know things." He reached for the next vinyl record on the stack, but then stopped. Line 3 lit up, bright red, a color he hadn't seen glow in years. Dan blinked at it. That line was dead, disconnected, after the fire in 2015. It didn't even run through the switchboard anymore. For a second, he considered ignoring it, but he didn't. He hit the button anyway. "KFOG, you're on with Dan. What's keeping you up tonight?" The line hissed softly, not with static, but with something subtler, a breath. The voice, small and fragile. "You forgot me." Dan straightened. The hairs on his arm straightened. "Come again?" "You promised you'd find me," the voice said. It sounded like a child. "It's still dark here. They don't know I'm not supposed to be." The call ended just like that. Dead air. Dan slowly reached for his logbook, flipping past notes, callers' names, half-finished playlists, until he found it. A scrawled note in his own handwriting, dated exactly 10 years ago today. "Midnight, line 3. Voice said, you forgot me." He didn't remember writing it. He didn't remember that night at all. But under the note, one word was underlined 3 times in red ink. Phoenix. Dan stared at the name scribbled in red ink until the studio silence became too loud. He exhaled, shook off the chills on his arm, and reached for the next segment. Routine always helped. He flipped on the mic again. "And now," he said smoothly, "a few local updates for those who still cling to reality, or what's ever left of it." He cleared his throat, reading from the town's bulletin board. "Shadow people spotted again in aisle 4 of Roscoe's Market. That's the soup section. Staff recommend avoiding the back freezer until further notice. Management would also like to remind patrons not to make eye contact with anything taller than 6'3" that doesn't cast a shadow." He took a sip of his lukewarm coffee and continued. "The old lighthouse flashed Morse code again last night. The Coast Guard said it's interference from the atmosphere. Locals say it spelled out the words, 'still here.' Either way, keep your curtains closed. If you're on the east side, the beam has been acting personal." The light on the switchboard lit up again. Line 1. Dan smiled. Well, somebody's still listening. He pressed the button. "KFOG 97.1, you're on the air." There was a pause on the other end. Just soft hiss of breath. Hi, is this Dan?" The voice was hesitant. A woman, early 30s, city accent, mute. "Speaking," he replied. Welcome to the midnight signal. What's on your mind? I just moved here, she said. In that little cottage up on Wren Hill, near the cliffs. Beautiful place. Quiet. But another pause. Her voice dropped lower. There was something standing in the woods behind my place. I saw it last night. Thin, tall, no face, just watching. Dan glanced towards the darkened studio window. Fog crawled up the glass like fingers. Have you talked to anyone about this? He asked gently. Yeah, I actually caught the police, a nervous laugh. They told me, and I swear I'm not making this up. They told me it's probably just the shadow residents. Don't shine a flashlight at them. Dan nodded, like it was just a weather talk. That's standard protocol, he said. Flashlights make them, curious. Best not to engage. She didn't respond right away. Just a soft intake of breath, like she had been waiting for reassurance and didn't get it. You'll adjust, Dan added. Whisper Bay has a way of reshaping your expectations. Just don't listen if the fog comes knocking. The line crackled, the same low vibrating hum from before. Dan leaned back, watched the light on line 1 flicker, then go dark. He checked the clock, 12 a.m. again. Dan sat in the booth, the glow of his switchboard dimming into his usual midnight lull. He closed the logbook, but the name Felix still burned behind his eyes. The call, the voice, the date, all of it circled in his head, like goals waiting on the tide to go out. He reached for his mug, but only to realize it was empty. Of course it was. Outside, the fog pressed hard against the window, as if it was listening. Still here, he muttered to himself. The words from the lighthouse blinked across his memory. He flipped the mic on one last time. Well, folks, that's about all the strange we have time for tonight. If you've been watching the shadows, hearing things in the fog, or talking to the voices the phone company doesn't recognize, you're not alone. He paused, thought of the woman on the hill, of Felix. I'll be back tomorrow night. Same time, same signal. He leaned in, voice dropping just above a whisper. And if you happen to live near the woods, maybe don't answer the door if it knocks twice and never a third time. Dan smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. This is the Midnight Signal, coming to you from KFOG 97.1 FM in Whisper Bay. Sleep easy if you can. The red on-air light went dark. Behind him, something whispered in the static. A child's whisper. Again, so soft, he wasn't sure it was real. You remembered. Next time on the Midnight Signal, a woman wakes up to find dozens of identical handwritten letters on her porch, all in her own handwriting, and none she remembers writing. If you made it this far, please leave a like and a comment. Thank you again. Sleep tight.